In this video, we're going to take a look at some more congruent triangles, but before we get to that, I want to do one warm-up problem with you. Now, we've done a little bit of identifying different types of congruent triangles, right? And I want you to look at this example and see if you can identify if these two triangles can be determined to absolutely be congruent. Do we know that these two triangles are congruent? So take a minute, pause the video, check and see if you can figure out, and if so, how do you think these triangles are congruent? So, as usual, we want to make sure we check for vertical angles and reflexive sides. I don't have vertical angles, but I do have reflexive sides. So I notice I've got a side and a side here, right? Now, please do not do side, side, side. That is incorrect. We got to keep it to one triangle, right? Now, there is another way to find pieces to triangles that we've not previously talked about, and that's using parallel lines. So anything that we've learned up to this point in geometry is fair game for future use. So in this case, we've learned about parallel lines, and we've learned about angles in parallel lines. Can you determine which angle pair this is right here on my parallel lines? Well, those are actually alternate interior angles, and maybe if I take these away, you can kind of see how those are alternate interior angles. So those are alternate interior angles, and I know alternate interior angles are congruent. So actually here, though I don't have a reflexive side or a vertical angle, I do end up with side, angle, side for congruency. So I would say, yes, these are congruent. I know by side, angle, side. So let's go ahead and jump into congruent triangles part 2. So in the previous video, we learned about side, 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 angle, side, and side, side, angle. Now we're going to take a look at the other possible congruencies for congruent triangles. The first one being angle, side, angle. Now, angle, side, angle does work. We know it works. And notice once again with this side, it needs to be the included side. See how it's between my two angles, okay? If my side is out here, that's not included. It has to be between my two angles to get angle, side, angle. It's very similar to side, angle, side, whereas the included angle, here's the included side. So angle, side, angle, that's one that's going to work for us. So we take a look at a couple of different examples that would look like angle, side, angle. This one we've got those vertical angles, right? And we get angle, side, angle. This is probably the most common way we'll find angle, side, angle. But again, we're going to keep it moving because these are pretty straightforward. The second one and the last one we're going to learn about that works today is angle, angle, side. So notice the only difference here is the side is not included between the two angles. The angles are together and then the sides are on the outside. But this also works, and let's think about it. Let's say that this is 50 degrees and that's 60 degrees. Well, this becomes 70 degrees, right, if I subtract out of 180, and then I'd end up with angle, side, angle all over again. So with angle, angle, side, and angle, side, angle, if one of them works, the other one's going to have to work because we could always solve for the missing angles. But this ends up being angle, angle, side. And once again, let's look at a couple examples. So this is similar to what we saw at the beginning here. We've got that reflexive side, and we've got some alternate interior angles. Now be careful. Some people get stuck up on these alternate interior angles, and they actually start going with these guys here as alternate interior angles. But remember, our alternate interior angles need to be touching our parallel lines, and that's what those arrows mean. So in this case, a common mistake would be to call this angle, side, side. That's not correct, and here's why. This arrow doesn't tell me it's the same length as the other side, it just tells me they're parallel. Parallel lines do not mean they're the same length, it just means they're going in the same direction. So we can't count this side, we can count this angle and this side, and then the alternate interior angle. So that's where we're getting angle, angle, side here from. Alright, here's another case. We got a vertical angle here. This is maybe a little more of a straightforward problem. We've got an angle, and a side. So some examples like that. Alright, so let's take a look at some other examples. One that does not work. So this is going to be the last one we cover here today. Angle, angle, angle does not work. So, you know, if I had equal angles here, and then here, and then here. See if you can figure out why angle, angle, angle doesn't work. So if you think about it, I could keep all my angles the same size and just make my triangle bigger, right? Like I could have an angle, all these angles can match up with the other angles. But if at the end of the day my triangle is bigger, that's still going to give me angle, 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 only with a larger triangle. So angle, angle, angle does not work because it doesn't restrict the size of the triangle. So you end up with similar triangles, which we'll talk about in a few weeks, but you don't necessarily have congruent triangles. So here would be an example of an angle, angle, angle. So let's review. So far what we've covered. We've covered that side, 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 angle, side, angle, 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 side. All of those prove congruency. On the other end, we have side, side, angle, and angle, 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 and those are not enough to prove congruency. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to get to 90 on IXL K5, and really 100 would be really good practice, but I'll only ask for 90 because I know if you struggle, getting to 100 can be really a pain. So you should get to 90. Here are a few things you should look out for things that aren't marked on your triangle that you can still count. You can count reflexive sides, vertical angles, and alternate interior angles. So be on the lookout for those. The IXL is going to ask you to identify, is it side, 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 angle, side, angle, angle, side, which triangle congruency is it? And that will help you kind of identify. There's also going to be a set asking, are they congruent or not? So you'll do the same thing you did before where you determine, is it side, 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 angle, angle, or angle, side, or one of the ones that doesn't work, determine which one it is, and then put your answer in yes or no if it's congruent. So this wraps up our lesson on part 2 of congruent triangles.